Now, you and I have seen the pictures of the water cannons. We've seen the pictures and footage of bombed churches. Imagine the pressure he felt internally in his own organization to retaliate with violence, or even his own personal desire to retaliate with violence. And yet he countered with this wisdom, that if we respond with violence, we are no better than the people whose hearts we are trying to transform. He held on to that belief. Love is the most transformational power in this world. When we love one another, God lives in us. Who is the God who lives in us? Our gospel lesson begins to answer that question for us. It's a story of Jesus describing himself as the true vine. He says, I am the true vine. My Father is the vine grower. Abide in me as I abide in you. I am the vine, you are the branches. So this is how we bear fruit when Christ, as we know as God's love, when Christ is the source, the root system of our life, the true vine of our life. For those of you who are familiar with the Gospel of John, you will remember that Jesus describes himself as many things in that Gospel. The Good Shepherd, the bread of life, the light of the world, and now as the true vine. And there's something unique about each of the ways that Jesus describes himself. He says, I am the Good Shepherd. I am the light of the world. He uses an interesting construction there. I am is actually the name for God. You may remember when God called Moses from the wilderness, and he said, Moses, I'm sending you to Egypt to speak to Pharaoh to free my people. And Moses asked God, who shall I say is sending me? And God said, I am is sending you. I am is the name for God. I am is our source. I am the vine. You are I am's branches. God moved powerfully with Moses and freed the Hebrew people from slavery. And we are grateful for all the ways that God moves powerfully in our lives, healing us, protecting us, giving us strength to face life's challenges. And when we love, this powerful force lives in us. And yet God also moves quietly and tenderly in our lives as well. You may remember the story of Elijah. Elijah is fleeing Baal prophets who are after his life. He's embarrassed them basically, and he's hiding out in the mountains. He's all by himself, feeling sorry for himself, nowhere else to turn, and he gets a message that God is going to visit him. And there comes a great wind, but God is not in the wind. And suddenly there's a great earthquake, but God is not in the earthquake. And then there is a great fire, God is not in the fire. And then there is the sound of sheer silence, and God is in the silence. This is what I call the God of the prayers from our pillows. The prayers we share with God when the lights are off and no one is listening. The deep prayers of our hearts. God meets us in that stillness. When we love one another, the tender God of Elijah lives in us. So when we hear the words from 1 John, if we love one another, God lives in us, we know the presence that is in us and working through us. We can be a community that offers great change for our world, and we can be a place of tender healing. For the God of Moses and Elijah are with us. I am the vine, and you are I am's branches, says Christ. God is the source. I spent some time with, and she was telling me the stories as a grandmother and a mother, the stories of her daughter and her grandchildren, and she spent time with each of the stories as if to honor each of those powerful moments. And when we were finished, we prayed, and I was just about to leave, and this grandmother grabbed my collar and she said, "Do you know what the secret of life is?" No. Love. Love is all you need. And then we laughed at the Beatles reference. But it was true. And she knew it as a mother and as a grandmother. Love is all you need. Should we ever worry about how we're going to fulfill our strategic plan, or how we will raise funds to support the great ministries of St. Andrews, or to meet a challenge that is yet unanticipated, I suggest we start with love. Allow love to open us up, and we will know that Christ will be our source, and the God of Moses and Elijah will be with us. May everything we do begin and end with the awareness of that love. Amen.